Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. The 2015 Joburg Indaba got underway this week and attracted big names in the mining industry. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer attended the Joburg Indaba and joins me to discuss the highlights. Hi Martin.
Hi Sashni.
So AngloGold Ashanti's CEO said at the Joburg Indaba that South Africans should consider the remaining 30,000 to 40,000 tons of gold in the ground as a patriotic challenge. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, Bobby Gotts was the former CEO of AngloGold Ashanti, so of course he can talk as a free person. He's also chairman or head of the Business Leadership South Africa. So he's saying, there's this idea that we've mined out all our gold. Nothing could be further from the truth. There's almost as much gold down there as there was that's been mined. So we need to look at that and look at it from a patriotic point of view. We're calling for business patriots, corporate and labor patriots. Come on, let's get this wealth out of the ground. Why is it that we're not, valuing this at a time when the gold price is going up? Of course, costs have also gone up. Let us get those costs down. Let us not ignore an endowment there that can create wealth for our people. And of course, he was joined by Dr. James Matlatsi. They almost joined at the hip, the two of them. They, fought the battles of the early labor movement, 1987 strike, which was they deeply etched in their memories how they had to fight together. And of course, people were talking about multi-union rivalry. Well, they were saying there was a lot of multi-union rivalry then. It was white unions against black unions, so they've been through the mill. And they're saying, now, come on, guys, let's get together, put our heads together, start getting some wealth out of the ground. It's still there. Even in the gold business, it's still there, although we've been mining for 120 years. It's far from being mined out. Let's go and get it and see it as a patriotic challenge.
It was also highlighted at the Indaba that South Africa has fallen as the world's biggest gold producer. Can you tell us about that?
It's tragic. You've got Dr. Mark Bristow. He's active outside the country because he can't stomach what's going on inside the country. He's done so well in the gold business. He's on the London Stock Exchange, and the value of his company is huge next to all the other gold companies. And he said when he started Rand Gold Resources in 1995, that's 20 years ago, South Africa was the biggest producer of gold in the world, producing 24% of the world's gold. What have we done? We slipped down to 5%. We should almost have a truth commission. How did we lose this tremendous endowment? It's a national patrimony. It belongs to us. And yet we treat it so shoddily. We're down to 5% and falling. It's not as if we're regaining ground. And now you see mining companies in the gold space, they can't make a profit. Even though if you look back at when Dr. Mark Bristow started in 1995 with Rand Gold Resources, of course, outside the country, not in here. The scenario was so different in terms of the currency. It was like 4 rand to the dollar, so it was a tougher game. It was a tougher game, and we are now pushing 14 rand to the dollar as an exchange rate. We're also getting $1,000 per ounce more for the gold, and we still can't make a profit. Now that tells the story. We are really down in the dumps. Self-inflicted, shooting yourself in the foot, not working together, lazing about, productivity down, not modernizing, all sorts of issues. South Africa needs to look at itself in the mirror.
The opportunities around mining Phakisa were also discussed by mining industry professionals. Can you tell us about the opportunities?
Now look at this. We've even got a Phakisa, another chance. Now, translated, that means hurry up. Well, I think we need to really more than hurry up. We've wasted so much time. If we don't get our act together, we're going to miss the next upturn. Not that the next upturn is imminent by any means. So we really have got time to finally sit down. And how many ministers have we gone through? How many situations, how many promises, how many changes to the legislations? How many promises of better legislation? Now it's almost as if, look, this is our last chance. And the presidency is grabbing it. Jeff Gadebe is sitting there saying, come on, we've got to have a mining Phakisa. And you can see that AMCU's already rejected it. So already, you've got people turning their back on it. But We should not be put off by that. You know, you can't expect 100% of everything, but if you can get almost 95% of the industry, as you will at Phakisa, let's rewrite the script. You know, let's start a totally new era and leave this past behind, which has lost us so much money. You know, you are denying the poorest of the poor, you know, some sort of benefit in South Africa. We could have had funds to do things with education. We could have had funds to build infrastructure. If you build infrastructure, you get rid of poverty. Well, you certainly get rid of inequality. It's very difficult to get rid of poverty, but you can close that gap, you know, the inequality gap, which is so important. And that's what we should be targeting at the moment, at least closing that gap. And, you know, hopefully in time, you know, you get to the generations and you get poverty right out the way. But in the meantime, concentrate on inequality, close that gap.
Sibanye Gold unveiled a new machine at the Joburg Indaba. Can you tell us about this machine?
Yeah, this gives me some encouragement. You know, Dwayne and I were sitting there. We didn't know what we were doing till late at night. And all of a sudden, they come out with a news break and they roll in a new machine onto the floor. And they say, this can be the future of our gold mining industry. You know how hard it is to mine underground when the area, the height of the reef, or the stope as they call it, you know, is lower than a kitchen table. So you've got to duck under there. So can you mechanize it? We've been grappling with that for a long time, because not only is it only the height of a kitchen table or a dining room table that you've got to work under, but there are also undulations. Things go up and down. So it makes it very difficult, you know, to set a machine in motion under there. But he said, this is the start. Here it is. And you saw this tracked unit come in. And of course, Neil Froneman, who's from Sibanye Gold, very well versed in underground mining, obviously in the old labor-intensive style, you know, where you use the handheld drill. Here he's saying, let's go into this new modernization. And this is just a small part of the modernization. Because we've not only got to modernize the equipment, we've got to modernize the people. We've got to modernize the labor agreements. We've got to modernize everything, because we have fallen so far behind. You know, the talk at the Indaba was, when you compare our productivity to Australian productivity, they knock us into a cocked hat. Now, these are people who haven't got servants doing all their work. They do everything. You know, that's the culture there. And of course, when it comes to mining, they start as laborers. So they get used to doing everything themselves. And then they can be efficient when they do get a machine. Now, we need to have that mentality that we can beat the Aussies. And of course, you know, there were people there, particularly those in the iron ore mining side, who are determined to beat the Australians. Now, when it comes to coal, we do very well, you know, with some of our equipment, the continuous mining equipment. But of course, you know, the Aussies have got other forms of mining which are far more advanced. So they are way ahead of us. So for us to call for more pay, you know, is like really ridiculous in a situation where you don't produce. So you can't keep going above inflation with your wage increases, because you get driven into a hole, as we've seen. We've got people just taking away our gold market. China now the biggest producer. China now the center of gold activity. We were there. And it's important for people, you know, for a country to be there, because you can leverage a lot off those sort of positions. And so now Neil Froneman of Sibanye putting his hand up saying, I want to be the mining champion. It's great that people do this. You know, in the junior coal mining space, it was interesting to see Westcoal's Robinson Ramayeti saying, my hand's up for the junior coal mining space. That's what we need. We need champions. We need champions to go out there and show the rest of the world how to do it. But we're far from that at the moment. And hopefully, Phakisa will be a hurry up. And it's a good word. But you could see from the 445 people that attended the Joburg Indaba, which is now modernized itself, because you know, all the people who register, that they get themselves a handheld responder. So when a question is asked, they can vote. So they vote. And when they asked, will Phakisa be our answer? Will it be, or will it just be a talk shop? Like the overwhelming majority, their perception, talk shop, another talk shop. Now that's what we can't afford here. We really need some strong leadership, and we need champions. And I'm glad that two have put their hands up in the mining space. We've had Neil Froneman say, I want to be the mining champion in diversified miner, because when we have Australians and Canadians come out here, they can't believe we've got no champion out here. We've got no big company on our exchange anymore, and we have come out of a mining history. You've got Anglo in London. You can see, the retrenchments here in Joburg are unbelievable. That was the talk at the Joburg and Darba. That's becoming a bit of a shell, this headquarter here, because the decision is now taken in London. Who allowed that to happen? When BHP Billiton wanted to list in London only, the Australian says, no ways. You've got to have joint headquarters. Well, it's off. When, the government was asked whether Anglo-American could list in London and, Billiton, yeah, sure. So we get a secondary listing here. The primary listing in London, shoot in the foot. Again, stupid decision-making, lack of foresight. We need to change all that, and it can change. We've gone back for 2 decades. We can then shoot ourselves forward again because we've got the endowment, we've got the resources. We need to turn it to positive account. We need to modernize. And we saw what the Chinese did. They were very big in clothing. They were labor intensive, almost like a sweatshop. But then they decided, hey, you can't keep going like this. You've now got to use the highest technology possible, but still keep your market share. So what did they do? They introduced the highest technology into clothing manufacture, still kept their market share. Not stupid. We just floundered, and we've lost our market share.
Thank you for chatting with us.
It's a great pleasure, Sashni.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on South Africa's mining industry.